First thing I would do is make sure that I had a Facebook account that was ready to rock. And then I would go meet people in person and cross promote my Facebook page with the in-person people that I'm meeting. I would go online. I'd find either local business-to-business networking groups, or I would find Chamber of Commerce type areas.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, it's Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring our special guest today. We have Nick Martinez. Hey, Nick, are you ready to make it happen?
Absolutely. Excited to be here, Simon. Thanks for having me on.
Nick Martinez was an airline pilot and was working as a first officer for a commercial airline when he realized that despite having a dream job, he lacked control over his time, income, and future. He was introduced to network marketing and immediately saw the potential for freedom. He got started, but struggled for years without success. Rather than giving up, Nick committed to personal development, attended countless events, and learned from top leaders. He slowly, eventually became consistent and developed a strong belief and vision. After a decade of relentless efforts, Nick has achieved what many would call to be a quote-unquote overnight success and was able to walk away from his aviation to build his thriving business. Nick is a top recruiter for his company, has set records for personal sales and team growth, and leads a community of thousands. So Nick, welcome to MLM Nation. I've given everyone a brief intro, but take us back to the time. Who introduced you to network marketing? How did it happen?
That's a great question. It's actually a fun story. It was back in 2009 when I was flying, and I happened to be flying with a lot of pilots who were entrepreneurs. At the time, the airlines, while a great career, were in a lot of turmoil, a lot of bankruptcies, and a lot of unknowns. So there were a lot of entrepreneurial pilots. And I had different friends that I flew with who would tell me about their side hustles, their side businesses. And I was getting excited myself. I was always an entrepreneur growing up. I used to mow lawns. When I was 20 in flight school, I got my real estate license and started to sell houses, just trying to make some extra cash because flight school was expensive and the career path at the time was not super lucrative when you just got started. So one of the first pilots I flew with that was talking about his business, he started this dog poop scooping company, which is ironic. However, it was a neat business model, and I got really excited about it to the point where I brought it home to my wife, and she immediately shut it down because she knew I was going to be on trips and we would be having issues with our business, and she'd have to go take care of it. She was not interested. But the very next week, I was on another trip with another pilot. His name is Corey. And Corey starts to talk to me about his network marketing business. And they had a really cool product. He just started to say, what if, Nick, you got people that bought this product every single month from you and you got paid each month while you were flying? What if you could build a community and it would pay you over and over and over again? And he really just talked about the dream of leverage, of being able to build something in the nooks and crannies of your day. And that's what sold me. In fact, I guess I brought it home to my wife and I said, hey, honey, I want to start this. It's $400 versus $20,000. And she didn't have a lot of confidence in it or confidence in me, but she basically said, hey, have some fun. If you lose $400, it's okay. So that was March 31st, 2009. And honestly, haven't looked back since. It hasn't always been a straight up line, but it's definitely been a journey.
So how did it go once you got started with that company?
Well, I was excited and I was full of just vision, and I felt like, hey, I can do this. The reality, though, 30 days in, I'd enrolled nobody, 0 people. Until I was actually out in Colorado where I grew up, and I was with my parents, and I spent some time. We were on a hike, and I think I never shut up about my excitement around this business. Finally, my dad that night, he's like, here's my credit card, whatever you have to do, just, you can stop talking to me about it. So he was a pity sign up. But that very night, like 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from Corey, the pilot, said, oh my gosh, Nick, you did it. You're going to crush this. You got your first sale. And I remember telling Corey, actually, Corey, it was my dad. It was a pity sign up. And at this point, I was kind of defeated. And he's like, no, it's going to be amazing. You can do this. So that that was the beginning. It wasn't a rocket ship by any stretch, but um, Corey built enough belief in me that I kept going.
You said you went to Colorado and finally got the pity sign up. Even though you had rejection, how did you maintain that excitement and courage to even share with your dad before? Because a lot of people are quit already.
It was the vision that was painted. It was the picture that was shown, and also it was almost I didn't want to fail, and I knew that if I stopped, it would be me giving up. So when I got started, and my wife was not really excited about it, but she was supportive of it. If if I stopped before I created some sort of success, it would have been her telling me, "I told you so."
Hmm.
Sometimes it's the littlest things like that that keep you in the game long enough to to find a little bit of success.
So what happened after you got your pity sign up from your dad? How long did it take you to get to get the next one?
It's funny because the literally it was a week and a half later. I got invited to go to an event. It was my first ever event for network marketing, and it was called 90 Days to Success. It was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And my pilot friend said, "Hey, I'm going. You need to come because if we're going to do this, like we just got to learn, from people that are having success." So I went to that event, and I remember, like it was yesterday, there were a couple guys that were in the row in front of me, and they were talking about, "Hey, I made $15,000 last month." Another one said, "Hey, I made $20,000 last month." And I'm like, "Holy smokes, this is for real." So I went home and I realized after that event, I had to get a little bit more intentional. I had to take a little bit more action than I was actually taking. It was a good eye opener to the fear that I had of actually making a phone call. And what felt like me doing a lot of work wasn't actually a lot of work. I was talking to the same three people, not talking to three people a day. So when I went home, I actually was able to reach out to some of my old real estate contacts and get a ability to go to my old real estate office and do a presentation. And that was probably late May, where I finally had a couple people join me and a couple other real estate agents who were excited about what I was doing. And it was that little bit of hope where I'm like, all right, I think I can do this, that kept me going, kept me in the game.
And how long did you do real estate for?
I was a realtor for 2 years, kind of the end of college and the beginning of flight instructing. I was at the time I'd never been into real estate. I always wanted to own rental properties, and I figured if I was going to do that, I should learn about it. And I was looking to buy a house when I was 20 and figure that out. So I became a realtor. Had worked with the company a little bit, and that was a learning experience because at the time I thought I was going to be given houses to sell. I was very naive. I got my license. They teach you all the real estate stuff, kind of like in this business. You got to go market yourself, right? And it was a valuable lesson that I've applied to network marketing. So I remember showing up to the first sales meeting. It was just a private meeting with the sales manager, and I was 20 years old. I was really excited, and I'm at this meeting. I was so excited they gave me a job. I didn't realize it wasn't really a job. It was just the ability to sell houses for them. And I asked her, I'm like, "Where are the houses that you want me to sell? Who do you want me to talk to?" And she smiles and she's like, "Nick, that's why you're here." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, that you get to go find those people." I said, "But I'm just a 20-year-old college student. Who do I know?" She's like, "You know a lot of people. Who are your spheres of influence?" And she started to walk me through, like, "Okay, so do you have any friends?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got all my pilot friends." She's like, "Great. Do you think any of them want to buy a house like you do?" I'm like, "I bet you there might be a few." So how about professors? Do you go to class? I'm like, "Yep." She said, "Did they know that you're a realtor yet?" I said, "No, they don't." She's like, "All right, let's get a business card." This was back in 2003 or 2004. "Let's get a business card made. Let's get some marketing materials and let's start sharing with the people that are around you. Where else do you know people?" I'm like, "Oh, I go to church here. Oh, I go to the airport here." So before I knew it, I started to develop a network of people which I could share what my service was, which at the time was selling real estate.
Hey, you brought up a great point. It's so funny because you said that once you have a license, you think you just sell houses, but you got to get the houses to sell, right? It's just like in network marketing. We got this great product and service, we just go sell it. But and you said you have to market yourself. What do you mean by that? And what are some tips in terms of marketing yourself?
That's a great question. We're so conditioned to be in the job world, and as a pilot, I was a great employee. I showed up, punched the clock, I got paid when the door closed, and I stopped getting paid when the door was open. The longer the door was closed, the more I got paid. Pretty simple way to earn money, right? The challenge with any sort of sales, whether it's real estate, network marketing, or vacuums, whatever it is, you only get paid when people buy your product or service. And especially in our industry, you have to go put yourself into environments in order to have conversations, in order to bring awareness around what you do. Whether that's in person, you going to business networking events, you going to chamber of commerce meetings, whether it's you joining different meetups where there's other moms or dads with their kids, in environments where there are people who might like what you have to offer. And then social media has really opened this up, because now it's, how do I put myself in an environment where I can create a group of people who know me, who like me, who trust me, and eventually want to be part of whatever I'm doing. And her awareness of, all right, what do I already have that exists? And then at the same time, what are some different environments that I can get myself into to create a constant stream of new people to talk to?
So if someone was new starting out, what should they do in terms of and they're struggling? What advice would you give them to market? And then maybe they never had success before.
Yeah. So number one piece of advice is don't stop, right? Because the key to success is just continuing and being persistent and being consistent. That's been my key to success. Number two is work on yourself as much as you work on your business. Meaning, for me in the beginning, it wasn't the activity that I needed to focus on. I needed to do the activity, but I needed to develop my self-confidence, right? I was an amazing pilot and I was super confident in that. But when it came to like texting somebody or calling somebody, it would take me an hour or 2 hours to send one message. Well, that's going to really slow me down in my business if I have so much going on in my head that keeps me from actually picking up the phone. I would procrastinate. It would be, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm going to call this person back and talk to them about my product. Well, then I'd look at the phone, I'd get ready to dial it, and then I'd look at, oh shoot, I need to vacuum. I'd go vacuum, and then I'd be like, oh shoot, I haven't had lunch yet. Next thing I know, I'm outside mowing the yard, and then it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The wife's going to be home from work, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, I may have 5 minutes to make this call. Oh, but what if they actually answer? Then I won't have enough time. So I better put the dishes away first. And then guess what? I never actually made the call. So number one is you gotta take care of you. Get that level of confidence. There's so many great personal development books. There's so many books within our industry. Start with that. Know that if you grow, your business will grow into the person that you become. And then the second is the business of network marketing is not complicated, right? It's the number of conversations that you have over a period of time with the energy that you bring to it, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the vision. That's what equals your results. If you want to get started, if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like, man, I don't know what to do, you need to work with your sponsor, work with your team leader to identify ways which you can have more conversations, shrink the period of time in which you have those conversations. And then the energy aspect could be a piece. That's the personal development piece. That's are you confident and excited when somebody talks to you about this? Or are you like this and closed, and they're thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to join this person. So you have to become the person that somebody would want to join. Sometimes it's the big mirror. You're looking in the mirror and you're like, oh gosh, I need to work on myself to the point where I am attractive, not from a physical standpoint, but more from a like vision, charisma, excitement, passion. That's what's going to move people to be in your court, to do what you're doing alongside you.
But how do you get that confidence if you haven't made any much, or you struggled and you didn't make much money yet? Where do you get that confidence?
That's a great question. I mean, it's easier said than done. The easy way out is just to say, well, it didn't work for me. I borrowed everybody else's confidence around me, and I'm grateful. And I would say that most people have this. They just don't access it or necessarily believe it. There's probably people that are part of your support team, part of your group that are believing in you and want to pour in you. So I borrowed their belief in me until I had enough belief in myself. I also had the mindset of if they can do it, I can do it. So I listened to so many podcasts like this. I listened to so many different CDs. I heard so many different stories about how people worked through their process until it finally happened. And there are some people that got started and it just took off for them. Likely they'd spent the previous years creating whatever network, whatever self-confidence, whatever persona that they had. But there's also a plethora of people in our industry who got started, nothing happened, got started, nothing happened, found another company, nothing happened. And next thing you know, the environment was finally right for them where it took off.
So you struggled for a couple of years, didn't have much success. What was the turning point that things really, you felt like you got it and then things really started taking off and became much easier for you?
I think I hit a couple $1,000s a month after maybe 2 years, 3 years, and I was making between $20,000 and $30,000 a year, which doesn't sound like a ton in today's world. However, if it's part-time side income, that's life-changing. I listened to a lot of Jim Rohn in those years, and I would listen to Jim Rohn over and over and over again, and he would say the magic of part-time. Can you believe we get to work part-time on our fortune and full-time on our job? So when when I hit that $2,000 a month, I really I didn't feel like I'd quote unquote made it. I wasn't walking away from flying, but I was comfortable to the point where I felt like the business I was creating was creating an extra lifestyle, a little bit of freedom for me. It allowed me not to pick up more trips on my days off. It allowed me to have a nicer car that I was driving. It allowed me to upgrade our house a little bit. It allowed just some flexibility and breathing room in our finances. And instead of judging where I was at, saying, I'm not at six figures a year yet, what's wrong with me? I embraced that $25,000 to $30,000 a year, maybe for a little bit too long, but I was in a spot where I'm like, okay, this is fun.
You had mentioned that procrastination that we all gone through that. Like you have a prospect to call 11, but you got to do the dishes, got to mow the lawn, you got to get things ready. How did you overcome that? Did something happen, or was it a gradual process from personal development that you said, "Hey, I just got to go pick up the phone and make that call"?
Yeah, I wish it was a magic. I wish I got hypnotized or something. That all of a sudden it went away. I wish I went to an event and I did my, statements, or I did this magical thing, and next thing you know, it's gone. But no, it was day in, day out, becoming more confident, building my own personal belief. It was, creating an identity statement. It was saying my affirmations. It was writing down a vision of my future and stepping into it. It was experiencing that as if it already happened. And it was the combination of those over time where the procrastination went from 2 hours to an hour to 30 minutes to 5 minutes to, okay, now we're not even having that feeling anymore.
How do you stay consistent and persistent? Because I know that's one of your strengths. What routines or maybe hacks, apps you use? What do you do to stay consistent?
Consistency, I think, it's a mindset. It is a commitment. Like, my commitment level is pretty high to whatever I do, and that creates that actually breeds consistency. An example of that is you're pretty committed to certain things. I was committed to flying airplanes, and consistently I showed up to my job. Why? Because I had to. If I didn't show up to the airplane to fly it, they would have to delay the flight, maybe cancel the flight, and then I would get in trouble. And if I did that 2 times, guess what? The airline would fire me. Like, it was just a fact. So I knew that my commitment to that job was a thing where I had to show up consistently, and I couldn't not show up. Same with studying for a check ride, right? Every 6 months, pilots go and they get tested, which is a good thing. They're very, like, you have to be proficient as a pilot. Before that check ride, you got to go study. Why? Because you're doing things in that simulator that normally don't happen. Like, the engines are catching on fire. They're training you for the worst case scenarios. It'd be easy just to show up to that and not have, studied beforehand. But because you're committed to that job and not getting fired, that you have to be consistent in studying and consistently show up in that way. So because that was my conditioning and that's all I knew, I didn't have a way out in my mind through this business. The biggest thief of consistency in network marketing is there's no boss, right? There's no firing of you. You're your own boss, and your upline, your support team, they're probably not gonna call you and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't post today. What's wrong with you?" No, they're gonna love on you. They might give you a little pressure, but it's up to you to put that pressure. So immediately in the beginning, the way that I stayed consistent is I treated this with the same level of respect as I did my airline career. And that level of like commitment is required in order to create success long term inside of network marketing.
I was always curious. You talk about the pilot. If you didn't show up twice, you get fired. What happens if you do not like? Well, the students they don't show up. Is there like a backup pilots in the airport, like waiting on standby if someone gets sick in the last minute?
Yeah, as a pilot, you either bid like a hard schedule or you bid what's called reserve. And there's probably, it depends on the month, but anywhere from 20% to 30% of pilots are on reserve, which allows the airline flexibility to not cancel flights when either pilots call in sick, pilots show up late to the flights, or it's usually they're used when weather malfunctions the airline industry. Which, if there's a snowstorm, if there's a thunderstorm, and all these flights are diverted, well, they have flights that are supposed to operate that same airplane, and pilots are now displaced. So they use the reserve pilot. So it's as a reserve pilot, you might fly, a full schedule where you're flying 15 days in a month, or you might literally fly one day. It just kind of depends.
But you're at the airport waiting.
They have what's called short call and they have long call. They do some airport reserves if schedules are really tight. And as an airport reserve, you'd have to go sit at the airport for like 8 hours, and you're just like the in the pinch, ready to go guy.
But you're
A
paid.
lot of it.
You're paid.
Oh yeah,
But
you're
you're
paid.
paid.
You're paid a base salary no matter what you fly as a reserve pilot. Most reserves are on short call, which is like a 2-hour call out, meaning you have to be near enough the airport that you can make it there in 2 hours for a flight. So if a pilot doesn't show up, then they just they have that kind of 2-hour window. Usually they know at least an hour or two before that flight, so they can make sure that reserve pilot gets there.
It's the same thing happen for stewardess, and they have like on
Yep, flight
reserve.
attendants. There's a little more flexibility, and there's a lot more of them. Um, and they're not as like as a pilot, you only fly one airframe. They might have a
Yeah.
737, a 757, 67, 77, and you fly one. As a flight attendant, you might be on multiple flights. So and there's anywhere from 2 flight attendants to 16 flight attendants, depending on the airplane. So there's a little bit more flexibility, but they have reserve flight attendants just like pilots.
I'm always fascinated how businesses work. I was just when you brought that up, I was like, wait, everyone's been on flights that have been delayed where the plane wasn't there or an engine issues or whatever, but never like a pilot not there. I was like, wait, you must have like pilots, reserve pilots hanging out there, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But like you have to show up, right? And I think in this business and related to network marketing, because I always say like for a lot of listeners, if you are your own boss, this in the network marketing, you have a boss you and an employee you. The boss will fire the employee you not showing up. You have a vision to be like to show up. Like, is it the events, the personal development? Or maybe get back to this. I know the answer is like the personal development. What's one, you mentioned Jim Rohn before. Anything else that was really profound early on that really gave you that confidence and vision?
Yeah. I can think of one thing very specifically. I had earned a incentive trip in 2012, and we were at Turtle Bay Resort in the north part of Oahu. Beautiful little place. And it was tons of fun. First, I think maybe the second incentive trip I've ever earned. I was excited to be there. I was not a top income earner in the company. I just hit enough little metrics to be able to come. I got the hotel paid for, not the flights, but it was like I was excited to be there. And there was a golf course there. I love playing golf. And there was my pilot friend was with me, and he, myself, another pilot that was a Delta pilot, and then this guy named Adam. And Adam was one of the top income earners in the company. He was in the top 10, and I'd always heard from him on stage. And like he was a guy that I looked up to, probably 4 or 5 years older than me. And I remember we were playing golf. We were on like hole 17. And I was reminiscing over the fun that we'd had over the last 3 days. And the next day was the last day of the trip, and I had to go home. And I was just saying, man, this has been so much fun. I'm heading home tomorrow. I said, Adam, when's your flight? When are you out of here? And he said to me, Nick, I don't have a flight back. I'm like, what do you mean? You live in Arizona. Like, you don't live here. He's like, yeah, I've got a distributor on Maui. I think I'm going to go spend a week there. And then I've never been to Kauai. I'm probably going to go spend a week there. But I'll probably, and at the time he didn't have a family or kids, so he had some flexibility in his life. But I remember like I had to be back to fly the very next day. And if I missed that flight, like I was going to be in deep doo-doo. And I was a little bit stressed around it. However, seeing him and hearing his story, that was the moment. That was like one of the pivotal moments in my network marketing career. As I look back on, I'm like, I want that. And I remember in 2012, I probably made 25,000 bucks. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it takes me another 10 years to create that level of flexibility and true just freedom in my life. I'm sticking around until it happens. And there were times during like 2013, 2014, where it was just like this. And I was, sitting in the right seat of a regional jet, just watching the airline career pass by as I'm focusing on this business. And I kept thinking, man, maybe I should just focus on my airline career. You can make great money here. Maybe I need to go progress through it instead of focusing on this side business. But then I'd always see in the back of my head, playing golf, Turtle Bay Resort, Adam saying, I'm not going home for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure yet. I'm like, nope, it's going to be worth it. It'll be worth it someday. I know it will.
I can relate to that. That's powerful, right? It's not like it's the motions, right? This is the saying. This is the saying. The leadership is not taught; it's caught, and you definitely caught that. Caught what network marketing was really about. What is your on the flip side? This is my favorite question. What is your worst moment in network marketing, to the point that you thought about quitting, but you didn't quit, and that's why you are where you are today?
That's a great question. There's all sorts of moments that are challenging in this business, right? You have people that leave, you have mentors that go on and do something else, you have people that come after you or your community, and those are all for sure not fun, challenging. They're just part of it. I would say in the beginning, it was my first experience with that, where I was with a company and my personal sponsors, the pilot, they decided that this wasn't the right path for them anymore, and they went somewhere else. And I was kind of left there, like holding the excitement and the vision for what we were currently doing. And it would have been very easy just to follow, if you will, and say, all right, I'm throwing it into, I'm just doing what you guys are doing. But I had like just more resolve. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't done where we were at. And that those were a challenging couple of months, like, because it was the first time I've experienced that. And at the same time, I had a lot of doubt and question of, well, maybe this isn't the right place. Maybe this isn't the right industry for me. But because I didn't, I was able to discover more of who I was. I was able to finally step into the confident Nick Martinez, the leader of Nick Martinez. And as a result of staying, sometimes when your direct sponsor or like your mentor leaves, it creates space for you to lead. Right? If they're doing all the leading, it's tough to lead yourself. And when they exited, I had no choice but to step into who I was.
What made you stay and not follow them?
Honestly, I was not in alignment with where they were going and why. And it wasn't something that was up my alley. And at the same time, the reasons they had for leaving just didn't align with energetically we were off.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing. You've been amazing. I could talk to you forever. I love your energy, your vibe. But we got to wrap up. And as we wrap up, some really quick questions to pick your brain. And these can be quick one-liners. First one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes that motivates you, Nick?
Favorite success quotes. I'm not sure if you'd consider this a success quote or not, but it's my favorite. It's today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And I've had that philosophy since I was in high school and never lost it. And I think it truly allows you to stay in gratitude. which is required for success.
What is one habit that's helped you become successful?
My number one habit, it's been weaved into the story throughout our conversation here, is just consistency. Never allowing a day to go by where you don't touch your business or do something that you know is going to move it forward.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Best piece of advice I ever received was, is it worth it to you? If it's worth it to you, if it takes 10 years, would it be worth it to you? And when I said yes, they said, well, then don't stop.
What's your favorite prospecting tool? Say you have a qualified prospect. Do you send them a video? It's a company video, a personal video, or do you meet one-on-one? Do you get on a Zoom? What do you like to use, Nick?
My favorite way to prospect is just a personal conversation, not via messenger, not via text. That for sure may be where it starts. But the moment that I have them on a phone or on the Zoom, and we get to see each other or hear each other's voices, that's where the magic happens.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
I mean, I like Calendly.
There you go.
That one definitely
And
works. It helps to keep me organized and also helps to open up more conversations with everyone.
what are 2 or 3 books you could recommend?
Let's see here. My little a couple books back here. Number one, anything by Joseph McClendon III. He works a lot with Tony Robbins. He's got one called Get Happy Now, and You Are Magnificent. But my number one favorite book that, like, literally I've read probably 7 or 8 times in the last 5 years is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Hmm.
And it's such a in-depth book that you have to read it more than once. And it's so powerful that once you read it, you may need to read nothing else.
Yes. Recently, I just got into that.
Ah,
Here's the last question, the $1,000,000 question. Are you ready?
ready.
Imagine you had to start all over, Nick, and you knew no one. You didn't know your family. Your contact list was 0, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to find prospects and build a network marketing business from scratch?
First thing I would do is make sure that I had a Facebook account that was ready to rock. And then I would go meet people in person and cross promote my Facebook page with the in-person people that I'm meeting.
Or what stuff will you be posting on Facebook?
That would depend on what my product and service is.
And where would you go to meet people?
I would I would go online. I'd find either local business to business networking groups, or I would find Chamber of Commerce type areas.
That's awesome. Hey, as we wrap up, Nick, thank you again for your time. As we wrap up, any last words or advice? And what's the best way our listeners can connect with you?
Let's see. Last bit of advice is don't stop. Plan, do, review. Always be learning. Always be growing. Test and shift what you're doing. Follow what works, but just don't stop. And the best way to see me, you can find me as Nick Martinez Life on Instagram, or the Keto Dad Life on Instagram, or the Keto Dad on Facebook.
MLM Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Nick Martinez. So keep up the momentum and head over to MLMNation.com, click on the podcast tab and the show notes of a summary or the big aha moments, and also Nick's contact info, his Instagram, Facebook. They'll all be there. Definitely go follow him and check him out. In order to be successful in life, in business, and network marketing, you must help others. So, Nick, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with MLM Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
Thank you.
What's up? What's up, MLM Nation? Simon Chan here. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I want to give a little recap from a great show from Nick Martinez. He had said one thing that was so important. I think a lot of network marketers like that. And it's not when you're presenting, they're buying not just who you are, but your energy and your passion behind what you're sharing. If your energy and passion for your presentation is low, or when you reach out to people, you're scared, you don't have that confidence, people are not going to buy you, right? And it's not simply like join network marketing. If you're listening to this, obviously you're not the ones who are just dabblers. You're serious. You want to be successful. It's not just like, I have a product, I'm just going to talk to people. You got to be that person that people want. As you grow, you get better and better. By the way, speaking of growing, I made it simple for you. Go ahead over to mlnation.com, click on the show notes page, because if you haven't been there recently, I know you're probably listening to this while you're driving or you're watching this, right? You're busy. I actually put down major aha moments and action steps for you to take that will help you out. So make sure you go check that out. I have the summary and the action steps that you can apply. Make sure you do that. I love what he said. What if? That is the main thing. You know what? It's about selling the dream and the vision, right? What if? I remember when I first started, what if I did this? I don't have to work a job again. And that's what got me going. What if? What if? And if someone can do it, you can do it. And then you talked about the event where you saw the top earner playing golf, didn't need to go back home. That's what this business is. It's freedom, right? And the definition of network marketing success, it may not necessarily be making millions of dollars, but freedom. Freedom. All right, I still earn a six-figure residual from the business I built 22 years ago. I can't believe it's in 22 years I started. But freedom allowed me to do baseball whenever I want with my kids. Allowed me to do this, travel, go back and visit my mom, do the different things, right? Freedom. And that's what this business is. What if you didn't need to show up every day? What if you didn't need to go at a job? But you definitely need to make the sacrifices. You definitely need to be consistent and work on yourself, grow and be that person. So if you're listening or watching this on the YouTube channel, by the way, first of all, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Also subscribe to us on whatever podcast and leave us a review. It really inspires the whole community, not just me, but want to see how you like these episodes. But it's to take action on what you've learned, right? Take action what you learn. And for a lot of you, this episode is about belief. How can you increase that confidence? And you borrow the confidence from other people, right? I remember when he was talking about his first event, I remember my first event, see my top leaders, oh my goodness, they can do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about a boss. That time I had a job I hated, 2004. I didn't need to do all these meetings. I didn't want to do my job. I could live that life. What if? And if I see other people making 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000, maybe 100,000, I don't even need 100,000 a month, just 20,000 a month, 10,000 a month. Hey, I'm all in. And you're going to make that decision. And it's during the challenges that you get better. Like, I love what Nick said. When his original upline left, that allowed him to step up and be that leader. So whatever challenges you're going through is allowing you to step up and be the leader you need to be. Be the leader that people want to join. Hey, go to mlnation.com, click on the show notes page, just click on resources in the podcast. I'll have the action steps and the summary there for you. Make sure you take action and apply. And go follow Nick as well. Great leader. Hey, you want to be a leader? Copy what they do, copy how they think. That's all I have. I love this profession. I appreciate you for listening. I'm Simon Chan. I'm loud and proud. Be a part of network marketing. And now it's over to you. Make sure you take action and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.